Brothers and sisters, the devil has us in his sights. And how do I know that? The devil has us in his sights. He's got us in the crosshairs. Because he had Jesus in his sights. In our gospel reading today, we hear about temptation and Jesus' temptation in the desert. And some of us have gone with me to the Mount of Temptation, or at least viewed it from Jericho. There's a place on the outskirts of Jericho, oftentimes where the bus stops, and depending on the time of the year, it can be very hot there, and you look up, and there's a sign that says the Mount of Temptation, and you can see it's walled around, way up there. And the first time I went there was a camel reposed below the sign. I have a picture of it. And Jesus, after he's baptized, goes out into the desert. He fasts for 40 days and 40 nights, and he's really dying of hunger. And then the enemy shows up. Hey, turn these stones to bread. Hey, I'll give you all the nations of the world. Why don't you bow down and worship me? And Jesus resists all these temptations. What is temptation? But a prompting to do evil, but a prompting to do that which is not the will of God. Oftentimes people in the confessional confuse temptation with sin. They'll say, well, Father, I was tempted, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, but you didn't fall to it, so that's actually the deal. That's the deal. You didn't fall to it. Prompting to do evil, prompting to do that which is not the will of God, prompting to do that which is not in keeping with what it is to be human. And Jesus resists. And we're called to do the same thing. We're at the beginning of Lent. And we know that the evil one, not only during this time, but all the time, has us in his crosshairs. And sometimes it's easier to see that, and sometimes it's not. And we're tempted from three sources: from self, from the world, and from the devil. And sometimes I ask myself, well, where's this coming from? Sometimes the response, does it matter? It's still a temptation, and you're called to resist. And so we practice these mortifications during Lent. We give up something, we pray, we fast, we give alms, we give up something to build that spiritual muscle, just like an athlete gives up all kinds of things, like eating to excess, eating the proper things, getting up, getting enough sleep in the night, getting up at an early time, exercising, working out, practicing the particular sport that he or she is trying to become better at. It's the same thing. And we know, again, the devil's got us in his sights. And what makes me think of that? So recently I've been trying to catch up on some things, and it's going to take a while. I think it'll take a year. I'm serious. Catch up on things that have been neglected in my life, personal things with the, regard to my work here and so forth. And I had taken out this gun that I bought when I was 60, and I really haven't given it much attention. It has a special sight on it that I never have really had before. It's a holographic sight, and you can change it to where it has a circle and kind of a cross like a scope, or you can change it to a red dot, or you can change it to a circle. And I'm thinking about, hey, the enemy's got us in his sights. And then I think about other sights, for example, a telescopic sight with the crosshairs, or an open sight with the post and the notch in the back, or a peep sight like I have on my bow. And it's just thinking, the enemy's got you in his sights. The enemy has you in his sights. And he wants to take us out. We know that reference from all these TV shows that we watch. There's so much shooting and violence in these shows. It's kind of, one of my priest friends, he really likes John Wick. And I'd never watched it. And I watched the first one and you're like, dude, this is just over the top. It's just over the top. I can't get into this. I can't get in this. Just as one of my friends from India would say, it's killing and killing and killing and killing. And I don't mean to make fun of you. That's a beloved reference. That's why I remember it. But the devil wants to take us out, and he's got us in his sights. And he uses temptation, and he hopes that we're going to fall to that temptation. And when we fall, when we give in, we've fallen into sin. He wants to take us out. And I think, too sadly, of those he has taken out. And he's trying to take all of us out. I think of a family member who was baptized in that very font. It's on fire. And within months, she had surrendered to temptation. I don't know all the details, but fallen into an affair. And then took her kids to live in very sordid conditions down in southern Arizona, and then died from an opioid overdose. Tragic. I think of a priest I knew, very, very passionate about his vocation. I don't know all of the things that happened behind the scenes, but like all of us, he was in the crosshairs, and I don't know what happened as far as his fortifying himself with the prayers and protection of St. Michael the Archangel. But he fell in a very public way. Heartbreaking. And now I see it's very hard. Now I see it's in a public forum on the internet. His sordid lifestyle. You're like, oh man. We remember that people can come back, but right now it's really difficult. It's heartbreaking. I think of others that I've heard of, even coming out of the font of baptism, having a renewed life, and then, throwing their marriage away, leaving their kids, and falling into a sinful lifestyle. The devil wants to take us out. He's got us in the crosshairs. We need to push back on that. I want you to work on a couple of things this week, right? We practice these mortifications, self-denial, to get stronger in the spiritual life. Patience. That's a tough one, isn't it? Patience. God, grant me patience right now. Might be our prayer. I don't have the definitive answer for patience, but what I do when I feel myself getting very impatient, I take out my little rosary ring and I start praying the rosary. Especially happens when I'm in line at the grocery store. I was in line at the grocery store the other day, right? And it was late. And it's like, okay, I went to Walmart, and it's like, they have the self-checkout, but it's like, well, I looked at the items I got. I don't know how to check the fruit out. I'll go in the line. And somebody had me in line. There weren't many cashiers. Somebody had a line. It's like, hey, man, that belt ain't moving. Hey, man, there's a lot of stuff on that belt. Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, it's getting late. Take a breath. Maybe take out the rosary. I don't have the definitive answer. Maybe ask your neighbor or your friend who is very patient what they might do in those circumstances. Second thing is gratitude. Now, Dr. Scott Hahn, and I just wanted to just smack him for this. During COVID, he was saying, for absolutely everything at the end of your day, Give thanks to God. Everything? I mean, all this crazy stuff on the news, the masks, the vaccines, the no vaccines, the isolation, the businesses closing, the bad news every single day. Doesn't seem to be anything good. He said, get everything gratitude. So patience, pray for that. You will be given circumstances that are where you will be impatient to, and don't give up. Don't give up. There was a priest I remember years ago. He would give up Diet Coke for Lent. And within 2 days, he was losing it. And people would say to him, Father, please start drinking Diet Coke. I'm telling you, that is not the answer. And I guess he did. That is not the answer. The answer is to double down, to pray for the grace, to maybe, if you're really having trouble, talk to a friend. The answer is not to give in. The answer is not to give in. But patience, don't give up. And then gratitude. Gratitude will help us to be patient, because then we start zooming out, because this is my problem too. I zoom in on this one thing in my life, and that's all I can think about. And my friends have challenged me, no, zoom out, Father John. See the whole picture, right? Sometimes I zoom in and I see my difficulty with sleep. And they're like, Father John, is that the only thing going on in your life? Zoom out. Oh, this friend called, and this friend stopped by, and this person said this, and that person, was supportive in this way. Gratitude. Patience and gratitude. Friends, just these little things as we move through Lent. Little things, small things, done with great love, will assist us, because we know we're in the crosshairs, will assist us in resisting the temptations that come with being a follower of Christ.